This is Made for More Living with Johnny Jennings, powered by eXp Realty. Online at madeformoreliving.com.
So we've been talking with Dom Montes with RISECON about ADUs, about flips, about commercial buildings. But there's you're kind of like the world's most interesting man. You've done a lot of different stuff, right? Yeah. From racing, and you've been on HGTV.
Yes, we had a
full... So I'm curious, so you did a number of episodes on HGTV. How did you get that gig?
I was actually called upon because I was traveling the U.S. with a certain group of people, teaching in front of 400 students every weekend on how to flip houses.
Okay.
So HGTV found out that I was an actual contractor doing the flips, and I had my own financial backing to buy the properties. A lot of people, like investors, have the money, but then they outsource and try to find a contractor that can do the work.
Yep.
I was doing it all myself. I had employees, and I had two Home Depot shoppers that would follow me at every house that I would buy, and they would just follow me around, and I would tell them I need 7 doors, I need 5 windows, I need 42 sheets of sheetrock, and then 3 days later it would show up on the property, and my guys were already on site and start doing that's how we did so many a year.
So they found out about you because of your teaching, and then they tapped you and said, "Hey, let's do a radio show."
What was the pitch?
Show?
What was the offer?
Yeah,
they set you down at the table and say, "Here's our idea."
Well, it was a phone call, and I remember I was parked in front of a post office in the Bay Area. Like, I was parked in front of the post office, and I got a phone call that said, "This is so and so from this production team, and we wanted to know if we can talk to Dominique." And I'm like, "Yeah, speaking." And they said, "Well, we had followed you around, and I think he said we were referred to you by somebody, and they said, would you like to do a TV show?" And I kind of said, I think I'm a little busy, and I don't know if this is a scam or not, but I have too much work. So I hung up, and they called me the next day, and I allowed them to come onto one of our flips in the Bay Area, and that's where it started. The producer was really cool. His name was Avellino. I think he's still producing. And he came with a little camera and his assistant that said, "Just act natural, walk us through the house." And we did that. We walked through the house, and then he said, "We'll get back to you in a couple weeks." So what they did is they took all these clips of different people that were going to be on the show, and they showed it to a study group. And apparently they really loved me. They really said that this guy's really good for TV.
Nice.
I mean, I've never done anything like that before. So they called back and said, "You're approved." We start filming in 2 weeks.
Wow.
And then we just, and it was fun because we had a lot of houses already, but the filming kind of put a damper onto our progress because they wouldn't allow us to do any renovations to the houses because they wanted to film it all. So instead of having my crews there every day, we had to wait till the film crew can show up. And so they usually delayed our projects by about 4 weeks.
So that's costing you money. Did you receive any compensation? Like, did they pay you in exchange for your time?
They would provide, like everybody thinks about, they would provide food for us when they were filming, and the pay was after we aired.
Sure.
We had a contract, right?
Right.
And the whole premise of the show, it was called Flip It to Win It. So it's whoever made the most amount of profit at the end of the flip. And whoever won the show, there was always 2 or 3 of us competing against each other. Whoever won would get the breakdown, right? There would be $4,000, $3,000, $2,000. So they would pay us per episode. But it wasn't about the money so much as the fact that, the truck was on the TV. I was the only one that had a labeled truck, so the company was nationwide and in Canada.
Wow. So was it a good experience? Would you recommend it then?
It was a great experience. It was like a bucket list per se.
Yeah.
It was really good. And we did get a lot of calls. Unfortunately, 60% of them were from across the United States, so we didn't get a lot of jobs out of it.
Yeah.
But it was a good thing to put in my resume.
That's incredible. And so, but again, world's most interesting man. So you were doing HGTV, and then prior to that, you had another company, right? You were doing race cars.
My brother and I started a racing company that we manufactured, designed, and developed racing components for Hondas and Acuras.
Yeah.
That was way back in the days before the first Dom on Fast and the Furious came out.
You are the OG, the OG Dom.
Yeah. That was fun.
And then you had a motorcycle business, right?
We did. At some point after we sold our first company, my brother and I went into actually making real choppers. As still today, my brother is really, really good friends with Jesse James. Like Jesse
Really?
James calls him all the time. He has it on a speed dial. Like they're
Is
really
that
good friends.
the father and son guy? Oh no, that's the other guy.
That's Orange.
That's
something.
Orange County Choppers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jesse James. I know Jesse James. Yeah.
He's down in L.A.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
so we did well with that company.
So it sounds like, okay, so you had the car company, sold it. You had OC company, or the chopper company, sold it. Like, who instilled this entrepreneurial spirit in you two, or is it just natively in you and your brother?
I would have to probably give my dad credit for all that because he's an entrepreneur all his life. So I guess we just picked it up from him. But these companies all stemmed because of my brother. He's a brilliant inventor. So I was more of the manager per se of the companies.
Okay.
And then I learned how to build motorcycles with your hands and build race cars because that was what we were doing, which made it a lot easier for me to build houses because the engineering to build a motorcycle is a lot more complicated than building a house.
Really?
Oh, yeah. But you got to remember, you have someone's lives on your hands, right? So you got to make sure that the metal is properly welded, that the welds are proper, that the weight per square inch on a tube of metal is appropriately placed. Like it's a lot more complicated building a motorcycle than a house.
I would not have guessed.
Oh, yeah.
Got to give those guys more credit.
Yeah. Well, we would actually order all the metal, and it would come as tubing and flat sheet metal, and we would physically build every single component on that motorcycle. We didn't put them together. We actually handmade everyone.
Yep. That's super cool. And so you had these companies, and then you sold them, and now you have RISECON. Like, what do you see on the horizon for RISECON? Like, what are the next phases of development?
Fortunately for us right now is we are about to expand nationwide. We're about to franchise into 7 different states.
Wow.
And my goal is to slowly change the perception of a general contractor, right? Just not everybody is what we were talking on the previous section of how people think general contractors are, right?
Yeah. Bubba showing up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the ultimate goal, is to then expand into other markets and just raise the bar.
Correct.
For general contractors.
Yeah. I mean, if you can imagine, you have thousands of houses across the United States that you're building. Like that's going to be quite a very tough thing to do.
Yeah.
So I assume this is going to last another 10 to 15 years. And by that time, I hope I could retire.
There you go.
It's very stressful.
So that's a good question. So a lot of builders I've noticed recently here locally are now offering tons of incentives. We just got somebody in contract. They threw in solar. They dropped the price $20,000, and they're paying the real estate agent more than they typically would pay them. And so when I start seeing these things, I'm like, okay, what are they nervous about? Like, So what are you seeing in the market in terms of like new construction?
Fortunately for us, when people call us, they know that they're calling, like we were talking about cars earlier, they're calling the Bentleys of builders because these are all our employees. Like everything's one-on-one. A lot of the contractors out there and the ADU builders out there, what they do is they bring in the sales and then they sub out to contractors that are willing to do the work. And that's where it gets complicated, right? Because now the contractor wants to make money and you bid out so much for a house, and it's just too much of a headache. I've already experienced that with 2 other builders. So for us, it's all in-house. Like we control every aspect of that, and I've been building houses myself by hand for decades.
Wow. So as you were talking about the next 10, 15 years, do you think there's gonna be a crash or a correction in the next couple of years, or do you think the market's just going to continue to be strong?
I think there might be a slight correction or a slight slowdown, just like every year. I mean, every 7 years, you know how that happens, right? It's cyclical.
Yeah.
So right now, I'm assuming it'll probably last another 3 years of being so inundated with everybody building ADUs. And only the best will stay on top, and then it'll slow down.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. Now that it's new, everybody's jumping into it, and so you have a lot of hacks, a lot of pretenders, A lot of people are looking to make a quick buck.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And it's I understand it, right? I was there 25 years ago.
Sure.
But what I would just tell the clients is to make sure that you know who you're hiring. That's it. Just make sure you do your vetting, do some research, and make sure you're hiring the right contractor.
What's the coolest ADU? Like if you were like, hey man, I wish I could. Do you have any cool stories with ADUs?
There's one on our website that I wish I could live in. It's
Yeah?
so awesome, man.
What makes it special?
It's the combination of all the finished materials. We did aluminum. We did an aluminum wall that was all glass with some really nice finished oak wood on the side, stucco, and it had a very contemporary look, which was really awesome.
I think that's really important for people to hear too, though. Is like if we're talking about putting family members or renting these out. I guess Matt was joking earlier. These aren't tough sheds. These are standalone homes.
Yeah, you go through the whole design process, and if you want a normal one, right, a normal box, then we could build it. It'll match to look exactly like your house, but we can get as creative as you want. Like we could build whatever you want. We'll just draw it with the architect, and anything you could imagine we can build.
With these ADUs, are you able to build like a garage underneath and a studio on top?
Yes.
Okay, it just has to meet the setbacks and all the requirements?
Correct. So if you have land, let's say just because of the area we're in, if you're in like Loomis or Granite Bay and you got 3 acres and your house is on a 1/4 acre and you have all that land, we could definitely build you even 2 of them with their own garage and driveway.
Got it. So my key takeaways are, 1, if you're wanting to do this, reach out to the JJ Mack team. They can help you get financing.
Yep.
So that way they can you can build the ADUs. And then second of all, just call RISECON. If you have a remodel, if you have a need for an ADU, if you're wanting to do a flip, maybe you have a property like, hey, this would be a great flip, but I don't know how to manage the contractors, they can reach out to you.
Correct. Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's Dom Montes with RISECON, or you can just call or text us at 530-GET-MORE, and we'll get you guys connected.
So Ben wanted to buy a new home, but he needed to sell his current home first. So Johnny Jennings negotiated with the builder to hold his new home until his current home was sold. Because of his reputation, the builder had confidence in Johnny and his team and held the property for their client. Johnny sold the home quickly and negotiated a rent back for Ben, giving him plenty of time to seamlessly move into his new home. That's what happens when you work with Made for More Realty. They sell homes 27% faster than other homes on the market, and on average for a 3% higher purchase price. They've got a huge team to make your home selling process the easiest and most efficient possible. Expect more, get more with Johnny Jennings and the Tom Daves team with Made for More Realty, brokered by EXP. Just Google Made for More Realty today and get more for your home. License number 581837.